Welcome back to the Damn Good Marketing Podcast. Today, we discuss our favorite topic. Subha and I started working on content exactly at that point in time when content was becoming a thing around the world and in India. And one of the most common questions we always get asked is this: how do I make my content go viral? Today, we are going to answer that question as precisely and as honestly as possible. Hi, Subha.
Hi Hasita, you're right, this is one of our favorite topics, always. Content, and add to it the craziness of trying to make it go viral. It's like an epidemic.
Or a pandemic. I won't judge you.
Typically, I've seen that there's a higher ask for it as soon as they've seen something really take off, and there's this bit of FOMO that how can I make that happen for my brand or my company. Of late, I've really been wondering what's all the fuss about? Why? Just put good content out there. But I think it deserves a bit of a deep dive, so let's try that. And the first thing that comes to mind is this whole series that CRED has been doing. I mean, you can't watch a match on TV or any show without one of those, in my opinion, honestly, bizarre ads from CRED. And just when I thought, okay, this is getting crazy, they got Rahul Dravid. And suddenly you start questioning yourself. I mean, if this guy is doing a CRED ad, there must be something to it. And on top of that, Deepika gets a bit of FOMO, and then she starts talking about it in indirect ways on her social media. So slowly you realize, okay, there is something to all of this, and everybody is talking about Dravid and Indranagar Ka Gunda and Deepika, and then you wonder, are they still talking about CRED though?
So what I'm hearing from you, Subha, is that you started paying attention to those ads when Rahul Dravid featured on them.
Guilty.
Can't blame you. So I think CRED is probably the one example of brands really going viral that we can think of in recent memory. 2-3 things come to mind in that context, right? One is the timing itself. It's no accident that a Dravid or a Kapil Dev have featured in those ads at that point in time, because there were cricket matches happening. The IPL was ongoing at that time. So timing, I feel like it is a very critical component of virality. You can't do the right thing at the wrong time and hope that it still catches, public imagination. What I also want to ask you in this context, Subha, is you said something about, is this even CRED anymore? Do you want to elaborate a bit more on what you meant?
So, I remember that when CRED actually came out, and I'm one of those, who jumps into trying any new app on the store.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it, and it kind of did its thing, and then it finally said, give me access to your Gmail because I want to see when your credit card statement comes and I want to be able to read it. And then I thought, hey, no way this is happening, because there's a lot more happening in my Gmail, and I just deleted the app. So no matter what happens or what CRED does now, you can have Deepika dancing and Rahul dancing, but I'm not going to give away what I feel is a privacy encroachment. So for me, the CRED story is kind of done. But I get it that while I was an early adopter, this would probably make hundreds and thousands more download the app, and then kind of the funnel, while it does funnel down, you will be left with a significant number who maybe don't realize, that there are privacy concerns or are okay with it for the convenience, whatever. And so maybe they reach a number that they could otherwise really not hope to reach with even a front page Times of India ad, for example.
Exactly. So what they are doing is, in a way, widening the funnel with the knowledge that there will be people with, say, for example, you had privacy concerns. Somebody else might have a different concern. But concerns are universal, especially when it comes to fintech and payment related apps. So the moment you widen the net of how many people enter at the top, you also subsequently increase the number of people who convert and become users. Now, for an app like CRED, it's not enough for it to be downloaded, right? That's not a conversion. It has to be used on a regular basis. People have to transact within the app on a regular basis. So whether you exchange your CRED coins to buy something, whether you actually pay your bills through CRED. So in a way, it's like the cash flow has to move through the app. So the more the number of people you have, the greater the amount of cash reserves you have access to. So that's, I think, exactly what CRED was going for. If not virality, then definitely a lot of visibility. And what better way to kind of present it in a slightly more positive light than to call back all of those people that we consider iconic, right? And at least that grabs your attention.
True. And I think maybe they did kind of react to a bit of the feedback, and they brought in somebody who's inherently trustworthy. So maybe that also added to, the widening of the funnel that you say. Another thought that comes to mind, and we'll come back to, because I do have more questions around software like this and apps and services which are more kind of B2C and B2B, but inherently software. There is also products that folks are trying to sell, right? Be it very, very consumer facing products, be it toys or beverages or apparel, etc.
Yeah.
And similarly, let's say someone like a paperboat, those cartoons go viral, right?
Yeah.
They're really, really captivating and engaging. You see, those images of train journeys and all from our childhood, really, really nostalgic stuff. And everybody loves to share it because you want to say, hey, have you also seen this? Don't you also remember when we used to take a train ride in the summer and fight for the upper berth or get down between stops? And so they really, really play well on that. And again, you end up wondering, how many of these folks go and buy that, paperboat jamun drink or aam panna? Does it convert?
Yeah.
But I'm slowly getting the picture that it's a lot more about awareness when you think of viral content.
So there are actually two things here. Number one, as we said earlier, is obviously the relevance and the timeliness of content. But in this context, what you're bringing out, I feel, is two things. One is, what does that virality really mean to me? Is it really translating into more sales? Is it really contributing to my bottom line in a way? And also the second thing is, how well do I know my brand to be able to pull off something like tomorrow, if a paperboat turned around and got on the meme wagon or did a Wordle challenge, I think we would all find it very strange because we don't associate a paperboat with that at all, right? It's drinks and memories and not necessarily moment marketing. So what Paperboat has done or brands like that have managed to really do is to understand their brand so well and to be able to stick with that for so long that they become, in a way, the governing authority on nostalgia. So that is actually, I would say, the second ingredient to any kind of virality, if that's the hope. Not advocating for it, guys, but just if that's the direction that you want to head in, then be really, really sure of what your brand really stands for. Now, what does it mean? Because an FMCG product, especially something like Paperboat, is an impulse purchase. You're thirsty, you walk into a supermarket, you'll probably buy it. If it's available in the airports, movie theaters, you'll buy it. So in a way, putting it on the racks is what is going to make the sale, right? But what their content is doing in a way is reinforcing a little bit of that emotional memory of an amras. It's not mango juice, it's amras, right? It's not, buttermilk, it's lassi. So in doing that, in a way, they have recalled that memory component. So when you see it on the shelf, the connection is immediate.
Yeah, I think the hope is that it becomes a category, right? Where you are one day saying, get me a paperboat, instead of saying, get me, the amras or the mango drink.
Hopefully, although that would also be a secondary purpose in my mind, because you cannot compete in the drinks category, especially India is a tropical country and people's preferences change every summer, right? Tomorrow something healthy comes along. I think we are all riding the kombucha wave right now. So tomorrow it might be something else. The day after it could be a third thing. But the fact is that you have to compete. It's a shark-like market. And one way to be remembered is to talk about memories themselves.
I'm willing to sponsor a competitor to kombucha. Please, away from me.
Oh God. Well, I'll have to disagree with you on that.
Interesting. Something else that you said caught my attention because I kind of thought they were all in the same. You mentioned, folks who jump onto the Wordle bandwagon, and I thought that's also a form of trying to go viral, but I guess it's not, right? You said it's moment marketing.
Exactly. So things like Wordle, Dalgona coffee, right? We don't really understand the mechanics of why they go viral at that point in time. See, for example, it would have been very easy for a Dalgona coffee to have gone viral at any point in time. But the fact is that when we were all at home and we had nothing better to do is when we started whipping our coffee, right? So any other point in time, it may not have found the same kind of resonance. Now, Wordle, again, what are we really showing people when we play Wordle, when we tag people on it? In a way, it's a way to connect with people around the world, which I think is a huge need for all of us at this point in time. So just because these things have gone viral, does that mean that every brand has to start whipping their coffee, has to start creating words that have absolutely no relevance to their brand? I don't think so. However, for the brands that do it smartly, and that, again, going back to our second point about remembering who you are, if you can pull that off still, then by all means, you should go ahead and do it. See, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be preached to. I don't want a company telling me how I should be behaving, right? So, and when it comes to trends like this, it can go either way.
No, I get it, because I think, let's say a Swiggy or a Zomato doing an Insta post which has Wordle look and feel to it, you don't mind it. You say, okay, this is current. I'm seeing very current content. It's a reminder that they are also, this is not old stuff being rehashed, and they know what's going on around them. But at the same time, when I see the WHO doing a play on Wordle, I'm thinking, really, guys, I mean, what are you trying to show here?
Yeah. Too often we don't spend enough time in the shoes of our consumers. That's the problem. Yeah. And also, just going back to the Swiggy Zomato example of, by all means, they can post as many Wordle challenges as they like. But the fact is that their conversions are still happening because they do ads at lunchtime. Right? You've seen Zomato's steaming piles of chicken. And honestly, as a vegetarian myself, I've been tempted to order something at that point in time. So I think, basically just separating the conversion from the perceived uplift in brand recall. And the moment you see viral content for what it is, the fact that, people have very short memory spans, they will forget at some point in time. You don't then set yourself the unrealistic objective of saying, okay, the moment this goes viral, I will suddenly have these many people who are in love with my product itself.
And, we said we'll come back to the software bit. There is the aspect of your product itself being suited to kind of spreading so fast or spreading so quickly, right? And we've seen that in quite a few technology space apps, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, you're right. Much like Zoom, Slack, all these are, in a way, they really took off after the pandemic, even though they had been in use for quite some time.
No, I'm wondering, so these guys don't really have to spend that much time thinking about expanding the funnel and doing viral stuff, because the nature of the product is such that if I can get one person, then for that one person to get onto a Zoom call, they will
need another
spread it to 4 other people. Yeah.
Exactly. Much like our famous viruses. So in that case, the virality in a way is built into the product itself, and that's a consequence of the simplicity of its use. So there are several B2B tools, things like Salesforce, even HubSpot for that matter, that you can't really buy today, implement tomorrow without somebody knowing how to operate it. Right. But then if you take a Slack, if you take a Zoom, they are so easy to use. It becomes very, very simple. Like I can tell my grandma to download the Zoom app and she'll know exactly what to do, and she'll click on a link and we'll be, on video call with each other. Likewise, a Slack, again, is a slightly different example, because unless every employee in a workplace is on Slack, it doesn't really make a difference. And therefore, in a way, they have engineered their growth in tandem with the growth of the company itself. Today, use it for 5 people, it's still free. But tomorrow, the moment you have 10, you have 15, you want an X amount of storage, it becomes a paid plan. So at that point in time, you don't have a choice because everyone's used to this product, right? So they don't really need to put out a lot of content in order to make their sales.
Got it. Got it. And now I'm going to jump back to, I guess, my favorite persona or person,
Okay.
which is the small business owner, end of the day.
Yeah.
Small, medium, but basically someone not big enough to have huge marketing budgets and huge spend ability.
Yeah.
So should we, in any way or form, or is there a smart way to focus on making your content go viral? And I think the fundamental question coming back to, should we even try?
That's a very interesting question. And I think one of the things that we don't talk about in any conversation about virality is the initial days of the campaign, or rather the initial touch points in a campaign, right? Even for you and me to have seen a CRED campaign, and I'm going to set aside the, platform level advertising and the TV advertising, because that's a whole different topic in itself. And I mean, once you shoot it to 1 million people, obviously it will be seen by some of them. But if we just talk about how a campaign like this was discovered on social media, so brands usually identify an initial set of influencers who can put out content about this. So while a Deepika may have been a happy accident, I'm sure CRED had paid at least 10-15 people to share that content. And secondly, it's not an accident that they chose Tanmay Bhatt and company to write these ads, right? Because they themselves have a certain clout because they are creators in their own right, and great content, by the way. So the moment an ad like this is put out from some of these guys, it's already being exposed to an XYZ number of people. So coming back to your question, what can a small business owner do? Obviously, you can't spend on influencers. You can't, rope in 4 celebrities every time you have a campaign. But even the simple act of sharing it with your friends and saying, hey, go hit a like on this. Hey, go share it on your networks. Identifying people in our network who already have a certain clout. Say, I may be connected to 100 people, but my friend might be connected to 1,000. And if I feel like that 1,000 audience is somebody who might be interested in what I have to say, then I'm going to reach out to 10 such friends and ask them to share it further. So before it can be picked up by the world at large, a certain amount of network effect has to come into play. And this is true of all campaigns. We don't see it because by the time something goes viral, we are on the receiving end of it. But everybody does this. In fact, there's a company in the United States called the Dollar Shave Club, one of the earliest direct-to-consumer brands that we speak about. They made a very simple, very on-brand video, and then they put a lot of PR muscle behind it. So whatever budget they had, in a way, they put news articles in 4 or 5 papers saying, here's a campaign. They reached out to 4 or 5 influencers saying, hey, please, promote this and we'll give you a percentage of every sale that's made from your account. Things like that are very much still in place. So it's not an organic process at all.
I guess, at the end of it, you're not really wasting energy or putting a lot of effort into saying, oh, I have to crack that one big thing. But there are a lot of small ways in which your content, your brand, your product could really reach larger numbers. And maybe in a small business, it's more about reaching the right kind of larger numbers.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And also about having a certain amount of faith. I know this is a bit of an unpopular opinion, but what the hell, it's our podcast, so I'm going to go ahead and voice it. We have to believe. And I think, Subha, we saw this yesterday with one of the campaigns we did for Raincraft. I cannot talk about, or rather, I cannot not talk about war when there is a war happening out there. The moment I talk about it, and if I talk about it with a certain amount of faith and integrity, it is going to resonate with people. So I have to believe that that's going to happen, and I have to make an X amount of effort in that direction and do it consistently over a period of time without really stopping along the way.
No, that's true. I think end of the day, being topical for most of us, for most brands, is important.
Yeah.
I think, you can't expect to really hit or strike a chord, with stuff which is just very much about just you and your brand. It has to be something that a lot of people can relate to in some way. And I think that's really what happened with the newsletter we sent out yesterday, it just really struck a chord, and I received so many responses back because we touched upon what's happening in the world around us, and we also gave them a few things that would be useful in that context in terms of managing self, people, your work. So you do have to really keep your audience in mind, especially when you don't, your resources are limited.
Exactly.
And now it's time for the much awaited Topic Al.
Whose topic, Al? Go check out on our website and you'll find out.
Let's go.
Subha, I'm going to ask you about a few things that we have cancelled. They went viral. We may or may not have forgotten about them, and you have to take a guess as to what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about.
Okay, let me give it a shot.
So the first thing we have is a snack item that was dismissed for supposedly having plastic in it.
Ooh. Okay, this one I know because I had to tell my kids not to buy it. It's kurkure, right?
Yeah, it is. So we haven't actually forgotten. Yeah,
Too
this
bad
one might
for
be
the brand though that we haven't forgotten.
Tell me about it. The next one we have is a little trickier, I think. A milk brand that claimed it was better than mother's milk.
Ooh. Okay, so I remember the hype around this. I remember everything but the brand. So I'm just
Lucky brand.
So I'm just going to say Nestle.
Oh God, you're right.
I got lucky, honestly. Like I was thinking it's in the space of, Cerelac and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was Nestle. It was very unfortunate that you finally remembered. So. Okay, the third one, this is actually very easy. A celebrity who forgot the name of the president of India.
Oh, poor girl. I mean, she's still paying the price for it, Alia.
Yeah, but truth be told, she took it very well and she turned it around, and the AIB video that came out of it was hilarious.
Yeah. And that was an interesting offshoot of the whole thing, right? It kind of became something that she associated herself with and took it really sportingly.
Yeah, she owned it completely, and massive respect for her for doing that.
Correct.
Not easy. So the next one is, I don't know, I mean, it can go either way, but I'll ask you. A famous author, now infamous for their racist views.
Are you thinking JK Rowling?
Yeah, and I'm also heartbroken.
Yeah, like my teenager, the next day she took the entire set off her shelf and put it away.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, because the issue was so deep, it took me quite a bit of time to understand what she said and what she meant. But yeah, it hit hard.
But also you've raised a good kid. And then the last one, a brand campaign that went viral for all the wrong reasons. There are so many.
Yeah, too open-ended for my short-term memory issues.
Pick one, I mean, anyone.
A brand campaign that went
viral for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, okay. You know what? We did all of this and we forgot Mr. Big on his Peloton.
Yep.
Right?
Poor Peloton.
That really killed Peloton. It killed him. I mean, sorry for the pun, but it killed Mr. Big, and it really thrashed the stock. And oh gosh, yeah. And I heard that they were just recovering from it, and another show, Billions, had a key character having a heart attack.
Killed off on a Peloton.
No, but luckily he survives.
He survives. Okay. That's a relief.
Maybe they paid to make sure he survives.
He survives. Yeah. Even Crockpot. I remember the huge furor after This Is Us, where Jack dies because the house catches fire because of a crockpot, and somehow people blame the poor crockpot. So,
I still do. Yeah.
Also, apparently, when we were putting down the notes for this, we noted Tanishq. Tanishq was the very specific answer to this question. So yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that, I mean, virality, even a brand for that matter. I love this quote, in fact, that says that your brand is not your own. It's, the perception that you create in individuals' minds. And the same is true for virality as well, right? The moment it goes to that level and it achieves that critical mass, it can go either way. It's completely out of our control at that point.
Correct. And I think Titan's a good example of a lot of things have gone well for them and then a few haven't. So it's been a mixed bag.
True. So that brings us to the end of Topic Al, guys.
That was fun, and I'm quite happy that I was able to pull these out of my hat, because really my memory doesn't serve me too well. So that was nice. That was a good boost. So let's kind of wrap this up for me and for our listeners. What are we finally saying? Like, do we focus on content? And I mean, focus means like really put a lot of money and effort into making it go viral. Should we or shouldn't we?
The TLDR answer is you should. You should absolutely put, because content creation, I think, is one half of the equation. Distribution is equally important. And you should, within whatever means are available, within whatever budgets allow you to take it to as many of the right people as possible. We live in an extremely noisy world. I don't think we have to say it specifically. We all know it. And the only way to really stand out and to be remembered even to a certain extent is to take it to the right people. Now, does that translate to virality for you? Is a decision that each brand has to take in their own individual capacity. And at the same time, sometimes you can go viral in good ways because the world is a nice place at the end of the day, such as what happened, we know, with Freshworks, with ID during the pandemic. I think their CEOs really put themselves out there, and it was a very heartwarming feeling to see that. But outside of that, also be very mindful of the relevance of it. Don't just jump on something because it makes sense in the moment. Be a little more conscious about what you stand for and whether this is something that you want to endorse. And timing, I mean, is everything when it comes to virality. You can put in all the right efforts and still have something fall flat simply because the world was busy doing something else.
True.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I think I hear you, and it's making sense that finally just focus on really good content, keeping your audience or whom you want kind of queuing up outside your door, keep them in mind. And fine, if it goes viral, hey, your lucky day, go buy a lottery ticket. But otherwise, just focus on really good content.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode about content and how to go viral and whether you should even go viral at the end of the day. Are you thinking about that as well? Do take a look at the show notes in case there were certain examples that weren't very relevant to you. We've tried to cover them in the show notes, and we hope to see you when the next episode goes live. Meanwhile, do hit subscribe and please share it with your network. And if you have feedback, our LinkedIn profiles are in the show notes as well, and you can reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Bye guys. Make this episode go viral. Thank you.